All right, thank you all for being here. This is really important. And just to remind ourselves that we are out here for the thousands of prisoners, 30,000 on the first day and still going strong, who have been refusing meals for 3 weeks to change the torturous conditions that they live in and that threaten all of us on the outside too. So what we wanted to do is read a couple excerpts from letters directly from people who live inside of these security housing units. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to open the floor for a little bit if anyone wants to say any words. I know we have Isaac over here who's going to perform a poem, and then we're going to walk over to the jail and make some noise there, because in our very own county jail, 37 prisoners have been on hunger strike as well. So this is a local, national, and global issue, and we want to be sure to draw attention to that, and we want the people inside to hear us and know that we're out here doing this for them. Okay. So these came from letters that I've been writing to a couple people inside the SHU. These are from Michael Zarirabu Duro, who's been imprisoned inside of the Corcoran Security Housing Unit for decades. He's been living in a small box for decades with absolutely no human contact, no access to sunlight, no adequate food, no adequate medical care. The reason people end up in here is they get gang validated. This label of gang member often means that the inmate is politically active and basically doesn't take the oppression that is being forced upon them and organizes while inside. That's one reason. So he says, the state's response to everything is to always characterize what we do as gang activity. And no sane person can actually believe that gang members, or the worst of the worst, are inclined to engage in activity that is as political as this. The hunger strikes, I believe, are an act of decolonization. It's an effort to transform the culture, one that includes shutting down the security housing units.
Shut them down!
Even if you are careful, you have your moments in which you may start to question your own self-worth, your sanity. You feel as though no one cares. You are literally all alone. This stuff is so damaging that you start to believe that you have nothing in common with people, and there is no way out. A feeling of dread engulfs you, and at that moment you would rather be dead. This is how thoroughly crushing isolation is. How destructive and dehumanizing it is.
Hearing people screaming, seeing guys laying in and eating their body waste, talking to themselves, punishing themselves physically, and there were guys who developed serious mental health problems. They cut themselves, they would be moved to a housing unit and placed on suicide watch for a couple of days, and then brought back to the same housing unit and the same cell, only to repeat the same attempt of suicide.
I can tell you, Courtney, that not many things are as disturbing, as ugly, as seeing and hearing a human being go insane. And this is precisely what these supermax solitary confinement housing units are designed to accomplish. The CDCR is very much aware of the harm, serious and permanent, caused by housing people under these conditions for years and even decades. You are constantly told that not only is your being in isolation your fault, even though and in spite of you having done nothing to be detained in isolation, but that any suffering that your families and loved ones have been subjected to is also your fault. You are not only being told that you are the worst of the worst, but you are being treated as such, and it's happening in an isolated environment in which your family cannot visit, and your mail is being tampered with.
Most, perhaps all, of guys who've been buried back here are fighters. They are soldiers, and after so many years of this, you come to the realization that you're dealing with a system that is really committed to your destruction. And whether you want to or not, you have to fight back. And because you've tried to utilize those agencies that the state makes available to you to no avail, you have to know and be willing to commit yourself to struggle. A struggle that calls for sacrifice. Hunger strikes are political statements. they're also acts of desperation. These people would rather die than live in these cells. And we also have to remember that these hunger strikers the majority of them are men, but we also have to remember that many women are behind bars. In the last 10 years, or no, 15 years, the women's prison population has risen more than 600%. Also, women's prisons in California are the most overcrowded and they're the farthest away, so they get the least visits. These are our mothers, these are our daughters, these are our brothers, fathers, sons, and they're suffering. I just want to ask everyone here to close their eyes for a second and try your hardest to remember at this moment where you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20. 78 people in Pelican Bay have been standing in the same 8 by 10 foot cell for more than 20 years. And over 1,000 have been there for more than a decade. That's just one of the California Supermax prisons. Just one. Right? So when people say that this place is a living death and a living hell, it's real. And also, I want to remind us, or I want to let you guys know that someone, this guy Miguel, who saw us out here, came up to this group and was like, yo, thank you so much for doing what you're doing. I just got out. I was in prison for 10 years and I was in the SHU for an arbitrary reason for over 3 years. So people are watching us and people care and they're thanking us and we have to keep this up.
Here, here. Yeah.